Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the virtual opening to Cherry Blossoms, a Textile Translation, the 2022 edition. It's a fantastic textile art exhibition, which just opened today at the Silk Purse Art Center here in West Vancouver. And we've got a fantastic evening coming up, hearing from some of the incredibly talented artists and organizers of this beautiful annual event. My name is Stephen Snyder. I am the Gallery and Communications Coordinator for the West Vancouver Community Arts Council. And so we are hosting the exhibition at our HQ, the Silk Purse Art Center, here in West Vancouver on the unceded and traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Squamish Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and the Musqueam Nation. And we are incredibly grateful to our host nations and neighbors for their connection to these lands and stewardships of these lands and water since time immemorial. And we are thankful to be able to be here on such beautiful ground. And we are also thankful to be joined by all these amazing artists that you can see on your screen here. We'll just do a quick roll call. We've got Bonie Adie, we've got Judy Villette, Annie Hunt, Maureen Tempest, Ann Cox, Catherine Nichols, Leslie Barnes, and Bridget Reed. And you're going to hear from all these amazing artists in just a bit. So as we move through tonight, you can ask these artists anything you want. You can comment, you can say congratulations, and you can drop that in the chat on your screen, and we will get to that throughout the evening. So as I said, this exhibition opened today, and it runs until May the 1st. You can come on down and visit the gallery Wednesday through Sunday. We have some pretty cool programming to go alongside it. Every weekend, while the exhibition's open, some of the exhibiting artists are going to be right here in the middle of the gallery working on some amazing textile art. So you can see artists at work and chat with them and learn a little bit about the different techniques they're using to create their work. So this is, if I'm correct, this is the 13th version of this exhibition that we have hosted here at the Silk Purse Arts Center. And it's pretty amazing that it's been that long and been so many editions, and it could not happen without the amazing contribution of the Vancouver Guild of Fibre Arts and FibreEssence, who juried the exhibition. First, they came up with the idea in the first place to create textile work inspired by the cherry blossom. They jury it, they organize it, the drop off of artwork. It's a fantastic partnership to work with these wonderful people. And to speak a little bit, I think, about that and a little bit about the exhibition in general, I'm going to toss it over to Bonie Adie, and she can give us all a little bit of background.
Okay. Well, thank you, Stephen. And what a beautiful evening to be celebrating the opening of this particular show. The trees are certainly nearing or at their peak. And for us to be able to coordinate time-wise, we're very fortunate. Sometimes the trees don't want to cooperate with us. They want to be a little early or a little late, but we're right on target. So this show, as well as the rest of the Cherry Blossom Festival throughout Vancouver, celebrates the history of the cherry blossom trees and their beauty in Vancouver. In the 30s, the mayors of Kobe and Yokohama sent cherry trees to be planted beside the Japanese cenotaph in Stanley Park to honor the Japanese Canadians who had served in World War I. In the 50s and 60s, there were 300 more trees sent to us from Japan, and it was reported in the newspaper as an eternal memory of good friendship between our two nations. Today, there are approximately 43,000 cherry trees within Vancouver City. There are about 90,000 flowering trees within the city, so that it includes the plum trees and magnolias. It's quite beautiful. Time to be here. And this exhibit doesn't just magically happen. There are many who deserve a very large thank you for helping it become a realization. The West Vancouver Community Arts Council has been absolutely wonderful in asking us to be part of their exhibit program, and most especially Jennifer Lord and Stephen Snyder. Stephen, who we could not do without, so don't ever quit, Stephen. You're part of it. And of course, the artists who are so willing to share their work. Without the artists contributing, we wouldn't have a show. And the jury that have a vision and make it work. Deborah Ziebrick is from Vancouver, Catherine Nichols, who's from the Sunshine Coast, and Edwina McKinnon, who resides in the UK. And thank you to Zoom, we were able to conduct the jury with her so far away. Otherwise, that wouldn't have happened. So that was very nice. Members of the Vancouver Guild of Fibre Arts and FibreEssence, who are very diligent about helping this, making it happen. The hanging of the exhibit, there was Deborah Ziebrick and Joanne Waters, Monica Brammer, and of course, Stephen, who did so much. Really, we get there and we lay out all the work, and he helps us if we have a question. Stephen, what do you think? And he always gives us a really good answer. And then they're all laid out and he goes, okay, you can all go home now. And he puts it up and it just looks absolutely fabulous. FibreEssence is a cooperative of textile enthusiasts, and for many years operated a gallery with exhibits and workshops in the Dunbar area to promote textiles as the form of art it is. When the gallery closed as a result of the building in which it was situated being demolished, it was decided we would work to support exhibits such as this one. The mission statement of the Vancouver Guild of Fibre Arts, similar to that of FibreEssence, is to unite and collaborate with textile artists and artisans. And most especially to all of you who are with us this evening, it makes it all worthwhile. Otherwise, what would we do with our work? It's fun to share. A virtual opening is a relatively new experience for what has become an annual exhibit. And I would invite you to enjoy a glass of wine in your home while attending at a distance. So do come to see the exhibit and to enjoy the demos that will be offered during the time of the show on the weekend. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bonnie. Yeah, a lot of people put a lot of work into this exhibition, and greatly appreciated. And as you mentioned, Bonnie, there is a jury involved in selecting these artworks, and we have one of our jurors with us, Catherine Nichols. Catherine, if you could speak to a little bit about what the jury process is like and how do you go about selecting the artwork for the show?
The jury process is fabulous. It's a wonderful day. We actually go for lunch at Bonnie's house and she slides these things past us just to check them as we're going along. But the lunch makes it all worthwhile. Thanks, Bonnie and Ron. Actually, it's unique. This year we did it by Zoom from a distance. So it was wonderful to be able to have the expertise of Edwina McKinnon, somebody we would not have been able to have under any other circumstances unless we just happened to time it if she'd been over. But it was amazing to be able to draw on her expertise. She's been in the textile business for a very long time, very accomplished artist. So it was wonderful to be able to work with her on that. And Deborah and I did our best to not let down the side. we have a process where we go through all the entries fairly quickly our first time through, and we have a yes, no, and a maybe pile. The yeses and the nos are easy. It's the maybes where we start to scrap. So we go through the list the first time, sort it all out into those 3 piles, and then we go back to the maybes. And then that's when the conversation begins amongst the 3 of us. We're almost always wanting more information. What was the artist's intention? We're leaning a little bit on what the artist's statement is. We're looking at the media. And then we're also looking at if the intention of the artist is showing, if there's a trueness to the theme, a feeling that this is honoring spring and the Cherry Blossom Festival, which is ultimately the goal of the piece. So the conversations get, I'm not going to say heated, but they do warm up a little around the edges sometimes. And we have been known to negotiate that I really want this one but can't stand another, and somebody wants the other but can't stand this one. So we'll trade off, but we're looking for 2 things. Well, we're looking for a whole bunch of things, but we're looking for the intention of the artist to make cherry blossoms beautiful and to make them what they are, and to see their vision of the blossoms. And we're also looking for a cohesive show. We're looking for things that hang together and work together. So it's a fantastic process. I really enjoy doing it. I've been doing it for a while, and really it's lovely to get the preview, but I can't wait to see it all up and hanging in the gallery.
Thank you, Catherine. It's always great to hear behind the scenes stuff. I think it seems like a hard job just judging on all of the amazing stuff you got in this year. I can't imagine what it's like trying to.
This was one of the harder years, Stephen. There was a lot of really, really good entries. It was hard to find. I don't think we turned down very much. There was a lot of really, really good entries this year. I would say, and I said to Bonie, the standard I thought this year, Bonie, was really high. And it was that the quality, that the craftsmanship, the workmanship was exceptional.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think the more each year, the work has changed.
Oh, yeah.
It changes over time. I think Judy was involved right at the very beginning, as was Catherine. And they were large quilts, right?
Larger pieces,
almost,
yeah.
All large. And then over the years, that's changed and changed. And then when people come to see the show and realize the standard that is expected, that's what they work towards. So each time it just gets more interesting,
more finely tuned every year. It just gets a little, and I don't mean tighter, but tighter. The workmanship, the standard goes up. The size might come down a little, but the standard of each piece is exceptional. It's really nice to see.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Talking about change as this exhibition has gone on, something we remarked about on the install on Monday, which was just in terms of trends, how each year there seems to be different trends and stuff happening. Like this year, there was so many bright pinks, like of course there's pink, it's cherry blossoms, right? But this year it was so bright and so much pink, because some years it's just like a few little highlights of pink in something, and or also this year, there was a lot of just straight up wall hanging pieces, very few framed pieces, very few sculptures, whereas in other years, there's a lot of that sort of a thing.
That's true.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were jurying, there was less three-dimensional work this year than there has been in the past, which was interesting to see. And I loved seeing the color this year. And I agree, it goes sort of in waves. I remember I was figuring it out. I have been doing this since the original show at FibreEssence 13 years ago. And I still have the first piece that I did for that show. So I need to mount a cherry blossom retrospective. I have a few of the pieces behind me from years past, but the color this year just seemed really joyful, which was nice to see considering what the last 2 years have brought us. But it was so nice to see the color and it just, so many of them made you smile. As soon as the screen opened on that particular one, it just made you smile and you thought, yes, this needs to go through.
Yeah.
So let's look at some of this artwork and hear from some of our artists. Everyone who's joined us has a piece in the exhibit. So we'll pull up their artwork and they'll tell us a little bit about it. What was their inspiration? What were they thinking? What was the message? What were maybe some of the techniques? What were some of the challenges? What were some of the joys? So let's start with, who wants to go first? It's always tough.
I can hardly all.
How about Judy? Judy, why don't you start off? I'll pull up your piece.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that because, of course, it's not my first time. And as often happens, my work starts with a vision that I see around me. And I live in New Westminster and drive into Vancouver on a regular basis. And I've just been entranced with view of the mountains with little high-rises popping up in front that I see as I go down north on Canada Way. And I noticed that I have a couple of sketches in my sketchbook starting in 2018, just trying to make a little note. Oh, cool, there's my piece. So you can see the highway, which the Canada Way is the gray in the foreground. And then I've got some little white high rises that are very far off in distance, way far into Coquitlam, I think. And this has the artist license of the actual drawing that I have is of the evergreens that actually do frame that picture. But for this show and for my own enjoyment, I had just taken the beautiful cherry blossoms that are on the side streets in that area and transported them right along Canada Way. And falling from the sky or from the trees are the little pink blossoms that I carried all the way back from Japan. I was there 2 years ago and it was just the perfect year for cherry blossoms. And we followed them across Japan on our trip, visiting friends and artists in Tokyo, north of Tokyo, and then down to the south, Yokohama, and even farther. And there were just cherry blossoms the whole month that we were there. So we enjoyed it very much and brought these little blooms back, and they're laser cut out of kimono silk. And the silk was buried under the tsunami in a town near Fukushima. And my friend in Tokyo rescued the silk, washed it, and has used it for many purposes. So I was just delighted to be able to incorporate that. Sad memory, but for me also a memory of that beautiful trip in Japan 2 years ago.
Thanks so much, Judy. That was great. What a fantastic story.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So Judy, how big is that piece?
12 inches square, and it's mounted on a 1.5 deep canvas.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you. I am obsessed with the high rises around me in the Lower Mainland. They pop up in all kinds of vistas with trees, mountains. It's so beautiful here. The nature around us is so beautiful. And the cherry trees in particular, and I was just dazzled, Bonnie, at the numbers that you said there are. It's just mind-blowing, and it certainly got me through my first dreadfully dark winter in Vancouver. I didn't think I would survive, but when these things popped out in February, it was an early year. I thought, okay, I'm going to make it. So, and every winter has gotten better because I know they're coming.
Excellent. That's awesome. Thanks, Judy. Okay, let's, well, on my screen, next is Annie. So Annie, let's hear a bit about your piece.
Thank you. I just had a cup of tea delivered. It's not wine. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Bonnie, for all that you do, putting on this. It's great. My piece is 60 inches long, so it doesn't photograph well. I don't know why I go for these long, slender pieces, but I just love that format. Anyway, so here it is. Over the last 2 years, because we've been all hunkering down and isolating, the North Vancouver North Shore Needle Arts has been meeting on Zoom, like a lot of you. And we've been having a lot of international speakers for our programs, but also on the last Wednesday of the month, we used to have a get together where we would do different programs and learn things. So we've been doing what's called virtual Wednesdays. And last year we did scrolls. And I forget, maybe it was Bonnie or Catherine that got us into that. And so I have a lot of old antique Japanese kimono fabrics. And this is the piece I chose, this sort of dark, I think it's from a man's kimono, and started stitching on it. And we've been doing boro stitching, B-O-R-O, which is just a running stitch basically, and used in Japan for mending old clothes. So that is what I did. And I started collaging pieces onto that background and doing a running stitch. And then I suddenly realized, I think I'm ready for cherry blossoms finally ahead of time, because I'm always scrambling. So that's what I did. And then at the end, I just added a couple of cherry blossoms made out of silk kimonos and beading as well. So yes, that was my piece.
That's a lot of stitching, Annie.
A lot of enjoyable time and virtual Wednesdays with all of you. So it was not difficult to do, and it was a pleasure. So that will bring back lots of memories of these last 2 years of COVID. So yeah.
I think the pieces that are in there, this is a lovely photograph, and certainly your photos were good too. But when you see it in person, a real life piece, it's even better. It's just spectacular hanging on the wall there.
Thank you, Bonnie. And I'm not a fan of pink, so this may be one of the duller pieces.
Annie, the pieces on the black square, are they raised, those little blossoms?
They are, yes. So I made them 3-dimensional and then just beaded them on.
They're lovely.
Thank you. I can't wait to see everybody's entries. This is interesting that we get to see a sneak preview of.
I've already seen them.
Yeah, we've already seen them.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Annie, I really enjoy how you've moved your stitching, so it helps to keep with the horizontal stitching. It keeps making your eye go down to the next section and down to the next section. So I think that's really effective. That's really beautiful stitching.
Thank you. Yeah, and I must say, when we did the scrolls and the boro stitching, at first I just started stitching straight across, and then realized, oh, you don't have to do that. You can go around and around.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic piece, Annie. And you mentioned, maybe it's a little too dark, but I think that little bit of darkness is great. It's a little bit of an anchor. It still has that really fresh springtime feel to it.
If you don't have the darkness, then you don't see the light, right?
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Annie, for that. That was great.
Welcome.
Okay, so on my grid next is Maureen. So let me find your piece, Maureen, and then we will talk about it.
Okay. I want to say hi to my friends and family that might be watching, and I know that a couple of them might be in their pajamas because they're not in our time zone. So
The advantages of Zoom.
yes, yes. I can see Bonnie.
Oh, I've got your piece on my screen.
Me too.
Okay. Oh, there. Can you see me? I guess I just can't
Yep.
see myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The inspiration for me this year was actually the process. During COVID, I took several courses online with Carolyn Nixon, who's a teacher who does botanical printing. And I had always been curious about how people get these leaf prints on fabric. So I took a very short workshop with her and absolutely was fascinated by the chemistry and the magic that happens when you put the leaves on the fabric. And I experimented with a lot of different leaves, and I happen to live in a neighborhood that has many, many cherry blossom and Japanese plum trees. So I at first experimented with printing with the leaves on silk, and you can see the leaves that are a very dark gray. Those are actually on a white gazar silk, and the leaves will make a very detailed print on the fine silk. And it was just magical the way it turned out. So those dark grayish leaves are appliqued onto the pink. The white ones are also gazar silk, and they're the other side of the cherry blossom leaf. The one side of the leaf prints a very deep print, and if you put the other side of the leaf on the fabric, you get more of an outline. So I have both of those. And after I started printing on the plain silk, I thought, I wonder what it would be like if you printed on pink, because of course the Cherry Blossom Festival. And I continued with studying with Carolyn and took 2 more courses with her. And she started to incorporate natural dyes along with the botanical printing. So this is on linen. So I took a piece of white linen and dyed it with cochineal, which is a natural dye. And while it was still damp, I put the leaves onto the cochineal dyed linen, and the process is rolling it up very tightly and putting it over steam for about 90 minutes. And then you let it cool down, unroll the bundle, and the leaves have done their chemistry and produced a print on the fabric. It's absolutely magical. And the cherry blossom leaves create a very definite outline of the leaf. And I was just fascinated by that. And the green leaf colors, the yellow leaf colors that you see in that piece are all the chemicals that are coming out of the leaves themselves to create those leaf patterns. And I've embellished, you can't see the embellishment too well in the screen picture here, but I've done hand embroidery and appliqued. Some of the leaves you can see are translucent, and those are on silk organza, and I've appliqued those on top. So I was fascinated by the process. I used the leaves that were in my neighborhood in various stages of development, from being right on the tree to being picked up on the ground. And I have a mixture of cherry blossom and Japanese plum leaves. And that's all that, those are the only leaves that I've used for this. And I just love the result. And it made me think of when you look up into the cherry blossom tree and all you can see is pink. And that's what I wanted to get across. And I'm totally hooked on this whole process of botanical printing in combination with the natural dyeing. And the fabrics that you use with the natural dye and the botanical printing have to be a natural fiber. So I've been working a lot on silk and linen, and they just take the dye and the print so well. So that's what I've been up to. I spent my time in lockdown being the crazy neighborhood lady with the plastic bag that went around and collected leaves. But, you know, I got to know my neighbors and they wanted to know what I was doing. So I started carrying around a piece of fabric with the leaf prints on it so that they could see what I was doing. And it was quite fun. I really enjoyed myself.
Great idea. Yeah.
So Maureen, did you start with dyeing the fabric first and then working on top of that? Or did you have your leaves attached and then dyed as you were steaming?
No, I took the fabric and it has to be prepared in a mordant, which is just water and alum, which allows the color from the leaves to adhere to the fabric and also helps the dye stay stable on the fabric. So I took the white linen and dipped it in the cochineal dye just on top of my stove. And I kept moving it around until it was a pink that was a little bit darker than what I wanted, because it lightens up when it dries. So I took the fabric out of the dye and wrung it out and pressed it between towels until it was just damp. It has to be wet, but not too wet. And then I laid the leaves down on top of it. And for this particular piece of fabric, I actually laid the leaves down the center and folded the edges in towards the middle to make the piece a little bit more narrow, because my pot on top of the stove is only so long. And so I can't have my piece of fabric any wider than that because I don't have room in the pot. So I folded the fabric and then rolled it around a wooden dowel and bound it really tightly with an elastic bandage and put it in the pot. It's an old turkey roaster that I use on top of my stove. And I put the bundle in, steamed it for 90 minutes, and then took it out, cooled it, and unrolled it.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're right. The photograph doesn't show all your stitching as well as when it's being viewed in person. It's a gorgeous piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's something about this exhibition is really you have to come in and see it up close and see all of the little details, all of the stitching, all of the ways the fabric moves and shines in the light. It's really an in-person event. And Maureen, that wonderful part about connecting with your community through art making that's amazing. Who could ask for more?
Oh, it got me outside during isolation. And yeah, it was a nice coming together of a therapeutic experience of the creation and the getting me in the community, talking to people. Yeah, lots of good things happened for sure. And I got to learn from an instructor who was in the UK. You know, how lucky are we to have that sort of an access?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Welcome.
So next is interesting. Next, we have two artists. We've got Bridget and Marianne to talk about a piece that they have worked on together. This is pretty cool.
Thank you, Stephen. Marianne, do you want to start or shall I just go ahead?
You can go ahead.
Okay. This piece, there really wasn't, I'm going to say there really wasn't inspiration in terms of the Cherry Blossom Festival. It was more serendipitous than that. These pieces started out as a challenge between Marianne and myself using index cards. We traded index cards through the mail and made marks on the index cards to challenge ourselves to make specific stitch patterns. So then we took it a step further, and we had done some indigo dyeing, and we had done some dyeing with potassium permanganate. And there were pieces left over that I shredded and shared with Marianne and challenged her to take the patterns of the stitches on the index cards and stitch them onto the small pieces that are attached to these larger pieces. The larger piece was, the two pieces were actually one huge, large background fabric. And I tore that in half, and we challenged each other to cover up the X's and O's on the background fabric. Once we'd reached that point, Marianne and I attended a conference in Sorrento that was being, Catherine Nichols was there and she was teaching, and we brought it because I wasn't sure what to do with it. And so Catherine said, well, why don't you put it into the Cherry Blossom Festival? And I went, yeah, well, how are we going to do that? She says, well, here's some challenge thread, figure it out. So I said, oh, maybe if we put some organza on this representing the cherry blossoms, and, you know, eyebrows raised. So Marianne said, yeah, okay. Now you can't see it in the detail, but on my piece, I started thinking about the cherry blossom trees as they were sort of coming to the end of their blooming, when it was raining and the petals are falling down. And I wanted to create the stitches to represent the petals falling down off the trees. And it's hard to see, but on the left hand of your screen, if you look at the upper portion of that piece, you'll see that the stitchery is, thank you, Stephen, for doing that. The stitchery is, it looks like little petals falling out of the sky. Now those stitches run in, they're quite dense at the top, and then as you gradually get to the bottom of the piece, they get less and less, giving me the impression of petals falling out of the trees. So that was how I got to my piece. Marianne, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, just that my stitching more related to the passing of time and the shortness with which we can enjoy these cherry blossoms, so that the stitching's all horizontal because it represents the timeline. And that's about all I have to say about it. This was all Bridget's fault because I'm not much of a hand stitcher.
It was, I think for me, the challenge for me was the initial background fabric. When it was dyed, it was my first attempt at doing indigo dyeing, and I was learning about resists and clamping things. And little did I realize that once I had clamped the piece and dyed it, I had precisely that, a bunch of X's and O's, and I didn't really know what to do with the fabric. So I challenged my friend, Marianne, to do some stitching with me, and this is the result. And I must thank Catherine for throwing in the thread for the challenge, because the colors of the thread kind of prompted the pink organza and the green representing some of the leaves. Thank you, Catherine.
You're very welcome, Bridget. I love how you two have continued to work this. Like, you would work it so far and it would sort of appear to hit a wall, or both of you or one of you, and then you'd get together and you'd work it out again, and then you'd go further with it and further again. And I love that you've stuck with it, and I love seeing it back together again too.
Yes.
It's really beautiful. Well done, both of you. Just lovely.
Thank you.
I love the idea of doing work with someone else. That's something I'm going to try, to see putting two heads together. That's very cool.
And just to say, when we got to the point where we were putting the stitching on the background, Bridget and I weren't conferring at that point.
Wow.
We each went our own ways, so we didn't know what the other person was doing.
Yes, that's correct.
Which makes it more interesting, because we have different ideas, and rather than a total collaboration, it's up to a certain point and then we go off on our own direction.
I love that part of it. You go and you do your own work until you need to get back and talk again or bounce it off each other. I think it's great way to work.
Can I just interject? I really like the difference in stitching on the pink and the green. So one of you has put X's and the other one has the beautiful concentric stitches, and that makes it, they're very different in that way. Fascinating.
It's fabulous. It reminds me a bit of looking at things that at first glance they're the same, and then you have to try to spot the differences. Because Marianne's, you're so much of your stitching is horizontal, and yet so much of Bridget's is vertical. But at first glance, it's just like, oh well, someone's done a diptych, and you think no. There's a lot of differences here, but they work so well together too. Well done. And you're still speaking to each other.
Yes, yeah, we are. Yeah, thank you very much.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, both of you. That's collaboration. That's lovely.
Stephen, has there ever been anybody else that's collaborated in the past that you remember?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything, actually. Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's interesting. Well done,
there
guys.
There is another one hanging in the show, but it's a different kind of a collaboration.
Oh, okay.
Something to tantalize you to come on in and exhibit.
Yeah, and of course, being up here in Vernon, I miss the cherry blossoms, so but I will see them in person shortly.
Excellent. So next, let's hear from Leslie.
Well, I was going to say, miss the cherry blossoms. Hell, we don't even know what a cherry blossom is here in Calgary. So, so I feel like a bit of a fraud. I actually did a fair bit of research so that I would know exactly what I was working at. When I first started thinking about doing this piece, though, I knew it had to be about petals falling in the rain, because I do know something about the coastal weather, and I know that it rains a lot, but I also know that the beauty of the cherry blossoms. I've seen so many pictures. I haven't experienced them myself, but they're so beautiful and they're so fragile, but they have a lot of strength to them, I think, because they wouldn't survive all that rain if they didn't. Now, doing my research, and I came upon something at the very end, and I realized a bit of my mistake is that I don't think the petals fall off individually. I think that full blossoms come away. You can correct me, but so I took a lot of liberty with this piece. As I said, I knew it was being involved a lot of stitching to represent the rain, and there'd be petals. So the background is linen, and the petals are a composition of, there's linen, and there's cotton organdy, and there is some caddy paper as well. And I hand dyed them all so I could get a nice variety of pinks in it. And the best part of it is when I first started working on it, all I could see was petals in the rain. And then I thought, well, Leslie, you have to tell people where these petals came from. So that's when I sort of started at the top and decided, well, there would be the full blossom. And through my research, I realized that there's a name for the five blossom, for blossoms that have 5 petals on them. And the variety is huge. I guess there's some with 7, 12. It's just the variety is enormous of the different numbers. So of petals. So I thought, okay, we'll start at the top. And the best part was standing over this piece and dropping petals out of my hand and just letting them drop wherever they wanted to, because I can be a little controlling. And I thought, well, let's just let them drop and make sure there's lots at the bottom, because that's the ground and that's what they're falling on. So I hand sewed all the petals in place, and then started out in the stitching. And there's a few tiny beads to represent a little bit of rain, a little bit of raindrops, and then at the bottom there's more beads, hopefully that will shine through to show that there's just a little more rain at the bottom. The biggest challenge was trying to roll this, with trying to get those darn little petals to not fold up on themselves completely so I could ship it off. But here in Calgary, we're still looking for our first views of crocuses, if you can believe it. So working on cherry blossom piece was a bit like having an early spring. It was lovely. And I have Catherine to thank, who said, well, you should put in an entry. And I thought, but I'm from Calgary. She said, that doesn't matter. You can put in an entry. So yeah, so thank you very much, Catherine. And thanks to Bonie and all the other organizers. I've had such fun. I love working towards a goal. Otherwise, I'm a bit of a dawdler. So thank you. And Stephen, I don't think I'm going to get to see the whole show in person. So I do look forward to being able to see the tour of all the pieces. And it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Stephen, there was a picture you showed in the window frame earlier on of Leslie's piece. Because I know that I thought I noticed a transparency thing.
There's a double gauze on the back of it. And when I actually just stuck it up on a window here up in my studio, I realized that you could sort of see through it. And on the background is on the double gauze, on the backing is pink with flowers on it. So it sort of lent itself to the piece.
Yeah, it's
and
very
it
cool.
it is hanging in the window in the gallery.
Nice.
Yes, it's lovely. And when the gallery is closed, the blinds are closed, so nobody can see it until they come in.
No free looks.
No free peeks.
And Leslie, the petals do fall individually, so you're right on the money there.
Oh,
and,
good.
Yeah, and you really captured the delicacy of the petals and the.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that pale blue, I think, is just perfect for the rain too.
Oh,
love it.
It was great fun to do it. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
I'm trying to find that image again, because it was very cool to see.
I'm sorry, I just saw it flicker by and it caught my eye.
Leslie, did you say that you also used paper for your petals?
Yes. Yeah, some of the paper, some of the petals are caddy paper, because it's a fiber, and so it took the color nicely, and it also had a few veins of gold in it as well. So it kind of sort of suited it. Yes, so you can see the background fabric.
Oh,
looks like there's more petals.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
beautiful.
Stephen. That looks fabulous.
Yeah. When it was a little sunnier earlier in the day, before this was taken, it was really cool to see all the light coming in and see everything on the back showing through. It was really fantastic.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'd like to say it was completely planned, but that was a bit of an accident.
Isn't serendipity wonderful?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right about working on these pieces during the winter. It does make spring seem closer. In January, when we still don't have any entries coming in, it's sort of blah winter. And then anytime after around the 15th of January, they start trickling in these lovely photographs that I get to open on my computer. And yes, spring will come again. It's really nice.
So I think now, Bonie, you also have a piece in the show, so let's pull that up and hear from you.
like Maureen, I too have been taking online courses. In fact, I think everybody here tonight has been taking online courses during COVID. This one, I started with just a regular white background of cotton or linen, fine linen, and then I cut out the colored pieces from colored silk organza and laid them down, and over the top of it all is a piece of white organza. And then I stitched around all the outlines with regular sewing machine thread. So it's not very heavy stitching at all. And then I've added some sequins in the centers and a couple of beads, I think. And I too, while I was working on it and put in those 3 petals dropping, I thought, Leslie, I don't know if they're supposed to drop individually, but hey, that's what we're allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, well, that's good, Maureen, to know that they do fall separately.
They do, yes.
Mm-hmm. But I enjoy this process, and I would like to do more of it. So it's quite rewarding. It also can be a bit frustrating because you get that whole piece of white silk organza over it and realize that underneath something's moved and you don't want it to move. So a lot of basting just to hold it in place while you're working on it. And it still has a tendency to move on you. I don't know how it slips. The gremlins come in at night, I think.
So that's the only thing that holds it in place, Bonie, is basting? No.
While I'm working on it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you cut back, like a cutback applique, Bonie, or?
No, I
No?
had to cut out the pieces first. And to do that, I drew my pattern first, and then I pinned paper. Let's see, I pinned the paper with not cut yet onto the silk, and then cut the silk and the paper together. So it was well pinned, so it doesn't move. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's
I laid it out.
gorgeous. So the colored pieces are between the backing and the organdy?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Oh,
Mhm.
you're a brave woman, Bonie.
It's very delicate looking, Bonie.
Very delicate.
Beautiful. You're very patient.
Thank you.
Lots of very tiny stitches.
Yeah.
I love the berry at the end. The blot. Where you can see the shadow. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good. So
Thanks so much, Bonie.
you're welcome.
And Catherine also has a piece in the show, so let's check that out.
Aha.
Ooh.
This is really bright for me. I didn't realize quite how bright until I'm seeing it now. I don't have a lot of lofty thoughts about this, I'm afraid. This is 13 years of doing cherry blossoms, and I'm finding myself becoming quite abstract in my view of it. I've done some realistic ones over the years, but the stitching, I find, is what soothes me, and I've been looking for things that soothe me lately. So this is all hand stitched, and all the little pieces of fabric started out with a plan that I had, I'd guess 3, maybe 4 years ago, that I was going to collect a little piece of pink fabric from a whole bunch of different friends and cut them up and use them for a cherry blossom entry. And I have the origin of that behind me on the wall here, but I had a lot of little pink pieces of pink fabric lurking around, and I was really missing everybody over the course of this past winter. So I just started attaching them. I was very un-Bonie. This is a very un-Bonie because there's no basting. I just literally put the pieces down and then started stitching over them. So some are higgledy and some are piggledy. There are a couple that have landed straight, which is more good luck than good judgment. But I really didn't pay a lot of attention to that. I just literally picked up color as I went along out of the box that was beside me and kept on going. It was a thoroughly enjoyable process. It was completely unplanned, other than I started with a piece of old linen, an antique piece of linen that I had picked up on one of my travels, and I decided that I would fold it in half, and I grabbed all my pink threads and I just changed threads as I went along. Not a ton of deep thought, other than getting all of these, my little square friends, my little pink square friends attached to this background. So it's very heavily stitched. It was a very enjoyable stitch.
How big is this piece?
Oh gosh. It's about like that, Judy.
Okay.
I'm hopeless at this, and I should know
Yeah.
that. Bonnie might know.
I can find that for you.
I'm
I think I have
sorry.
it here.
It's a number. I have no idea what it would be. It's about, I'm going to say whatever I say is going to be wrong. I'm going to say 16-ish square.
I
maybe?
think you're right.
That's pretty,
Am I?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, Stephen. Somewhere around there, Judy.
Thanks. They're quite small little pieces.
They
they're
are very small
powerful.
little pieces. They're I think a big one is an inch or an inch and a half square. There's
Wow.
nothing bigger than that.
Okay,
So,
the official
Oh.
size is 19 and a half by 20 and a quarter.
there you
Ooh.
go. I'm really wrong. So it's
That's good.
bigger than I thought. And somewhere as I was approaching the end, it got really big, but it was an enjoyable thing to do because you could literally just pick it up and put it down whenever you wanted to. So, and some things are over other things. So there's layers of stitching under pieces and over pieces, and it has a very patchy look to it. So
Beautiful.
It is lovely.
thank you. It is very bright for me. I don't usually work in these bright colors, but it was perfect over the course of the winter.
Mhm.
Yeah, I bet you enjoyed working on that.
I did
So bright,
actually.
yeah. Mhm.
Not sure I
Well-
feel any stronger about pink, but I did at one point consider cutting them all into little blossom shapes, and then I gave up on that really quickly. So
Yeah.
I just decided that this would be my abstract year. So
Mhm.
I love pink. I think it's fabulous. I love all the stitching.
thank you.
I love the idea of having a representation of all your friends.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
something that I was traveling a lot one summer, and I knew cherry blossom would come around, and I thought, and after 13 years, Maureen, it does become a bit of a challenge. Judy, you know, this feeling of like, oh my gosh, what can I do that with a color that I am not 100% comfortable with? And again, to try and think of something new. And I just had this little bag of pink squares that they had all given me. And I thought, this is perfect. And I was cleaning, because that's what I do when I can't think of what to do, is I start cleaning out cupboards. So there they were.
And yet every year we come up with another idea. It's
Yeah,
quite amazing
it is. It
and
is.
fun to be challenged to come up with something new.
I think it's great. I think it keeps the brain cells alive and moving, rather than just sitting there. It's okay. What am I going to think up for next year now?
Yeah, problem solving.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I love all the variety that we've seen, but there's also, pardon the pun, but there's such a common thread through them as well. Falling blossoms. I mean, with the blossoms falling, with a lot of thread work in a lot of them. So I think it's just fabulous. It's been such a treat to see a small group like this.
I look forward to seeing them in person, because there's no comparison.
No.
Seeing them on the screen and seeing the detail in person.
It's too bad you can't make it out to take a look, Leslie.
Well, you never know, right? You never know.
Hey, there you go. Don't you have relatives out this way somewhere?
Thank you all so much for sharing sharing your work with us and sharing your thoughts and your process and your inspirations. It's an amazing thing to be able to hear artists speak about their work. It gives you a little bit more context when you go and see it. And if anyone watching has any questions or comments for any of our artists, drop them in the chat and we'll get to them. After this, we're going to take a quick little tour of the exhibit.
Yay.
Yay.
Everybody's at home drinking their wine.
Okay, so coming in off the waterfront, this is the view you get. As usual, the walls are just filled with artwork. And there's a great little guest book. It's the first guest book we've had since reopening. So we're happy to be able to have people share their thoughts with us.
I've seen that quilt in person and it's amazing.
It's beautiful.
It's quite lovely and it's massive.
Who did it? Do we know?
Her name is Gail McKenzie.
Okay. It's
She's a
stunning.
member of North Shore, one of the North Shore Quilt Guilds. I'm not sure which.
Okay.
Those flowers are all hand appliqued on there.
Wow. And she matched her binding to Annie's piece. How well.
I know.
Put on that show. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, I love this piece with the pastels.
Mhm. Oh, I love the green. Oh,
All those little circles, I'm dying of curiosity.
Yeah, they're felt.
Oh, they're felt. Oh.
It's like a penny quilt sort of ish.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
Oh, beautiful.
Mhm.
You're not the only one doing a long piece, Annie.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Oh, look at all the stitching on that. Wow.
Oh, wow.
mhm.
Oh, Bonnie, that looks beautiful.
It does.
Does.
Thank you.
Shadow, it's shadow quilting in a shadow box.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
There is a lot of pink this year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Janet Harper. Look at those French knots. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Jackie.
That one looks like it was inspired by Macintosh.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh, Catherine Nichols.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Catherine's doesn't look so bright.
No,
Yes.
no,
Right.
it's quite subdued, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's Edwina's piece, the long horizontal one. Like
Oh, that's lovely.
what do they call it? They call it a letterbox quilt.
Okay. Oh, it's beautiful.
And I did
Beautiful.
cut out several dozen of those little hydrangea blossoms just when I was over visiting once. So that's the collaboration. Not that I was
Okay.
making anything.
Ah,
Not an intelligent collaboration. It's
Oh,
just
look
a
at
cheap
Deborah's.
labor. Mhm.
Deborah's is lovely. Oh, beautiful.
Oh, Deborah's work is so beautiful.
Oh, that looks like a Bonie Adie.
It is.
It does.
That is so pretty, Bonnie.
It
Mhm.
is.
Thank you.
Those petals, Bonnie, what were those petals? What was the,
Silk organza.
oh, thanks.
I did all that bag by hand. There's no machine.
Wow.
Needle felted.
Amazing, amazing work.
Oh, beautiful cushions.
Oh, that's lovely.
And there's Leslie's piece.
Open the
Mhm.
window.
Oh, and is that Catherine's? No.
No, that's Margot Calvert's.
Oh,
That's right.
okay.
She got so hooked on the Pujagi.
On the Pujagi.
Yeah, she was completely hooked. Leslie, that background, that fabric looks fantastic in the back.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It's beautiful.
It's very clever of you to do that.
Very well planned.
Lovely.
Oh,
Gorgeous.
That one shimmers. It looks like it's silk.
mm. Oh,
Mm,
And there's Maureen's. Lovely.
that's so luscious.
Yes. Bridget and Marianne. Gorgeous.
I'm impressed how you got them to be the same size, guys.
That's all Bridget's fault.
Lovely.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Some hand-dyed sky there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh,
That Ross. Nice.
gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That must be Jill Taylor.
Yes, it is.
That's gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you can all
Yeah.
tell whose
We
work
know
is
each other's
whose.
work.
That was nice, Stephen. Yeah.
Thank you for
Good.
doing that. That's
Thank you, Stephen. The filming was really good.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it was a little shaky.
You'll have to come in and
Hard
see.
to do.
It is. Oh,
But yeah, but if you want to see it crisp and clear, yeah, come on into the Silk Purse Arts Center Wednesday through Sunday. We just started our spring hours, actually. I don't know anyone else who has specific spring hours, but we're trying it. So Wednesday through Friday, we're open noon to 5. And then
Oh.
Saturday and Sunday, we're open noon to 4. And that will
Perfect.
be going on until the summer starts.
yes. And we're expecting crowds. We want lots of you to come and see, right?
Definitely.
Mhm.
Are you having the sale in the basement this year, Bonnie?
No, we hadn't discussed that, and I don't know. There was too much that was up in the air
Right,
for protocols.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
year, perhaps.
Hopefully,
Okay.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
hopefully this will be our last virtual opening, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah.
Good. Good. But it's been very successful, Stephen. Thank you so much. It really has been a great opening, I think.
It has
Yeah.
been. It's been such
And
fun.
nice that we could have people from out of town joining us.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. I have to agree there, Bonnie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And anyone who has missed it or who wants to watch it again, you'll be able to. This will live on the Arts Council's YouTube channel. So you can come on back and revisit it and hear all these wonderful conversations.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you. Beautiful show.
It's
Well, thank
it's
you to
wonderful.
all for putting your pieces in there. That's what makes the show. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
This is an
Okay.
exhibition I know all of the staff and volunteers here really look forward to, and it's something that the community really looks forward to every year. It's something everyone's like, well, when are you getting those cherry blossom things in? People just love it.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends. They always say they look forward to seeing it. So yeah, it's a popular show.
I was in touch with Linda Poole during the week, who is chairman, I think, of the Vancouver. Yes. Anyway, she said she definitely will be in to see it.
Great.
So thank you all.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
For sharing with us. And thank you everyone who was watching. It was great having you here. I see all the numbers, but I don't see anyone chatting. That's cool. You don't have to chat.
Okay.
Come in on the weekends and maybe chat with some of our artists who are doing demos. Then that's every weekend from 1 till 3. There's a list of that on the Arts Council's website, which is in the description of this video. So thank you again, Bonnie, Judy, Annie, Maureen, Marianne, Catherine, Leslie, Bridget, and all of the other artists and organizers who put this amazing exhibition together this year. It's a fantastic show. Come on down and see it. It's on until May 1st. So until then, have a good night and thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Stephen.
Bye.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Bye.
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 Bye now, everybody.
Bye.
That was great.
That was